Hope you are all doing well. It is a weird time. It's a weird year, it's a weird time, and today I'm going to be giving an update on where we're at with the reptilians and what we can kind of expect to see, not just for 2023, but moving into 2025 and then even all the way to 2030. Kind of what's going to be going down. Now, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. It's a great place to be, and it's an awesome community to be a part of. And what did I want to say? Oh, yeah, I'm a remote viewer. That's where I get all my information. I also do trance-like meditation to be able to tune into different pieces of information. So that's kind of how I receive my information. I don't read books. I don't do any sort of external research. I have no idea what other people are saying, but this really just comes from my own questioning, ability to navigate, a deep state of trance, and then, of course, the remote viewing. So I can actually go to different places in the world and see what exactly is going on. I have been following the reptilian agendas since 2010, so it has been quite some time of really understanding what's been going on planet Earth and how that really applies to humanity. So today we're going to be going over actually a little bit of the power structure of the reptilians. I realize that I actually haven't talked about the reptilian power structure before, so I'd love to just kind of overview, not necessarily who they are, but like where they're situated on planet Earth, and then also like what can we expect, like what's currently happening right now in 2023 with the reptilians and the reptilian agenda, and then what are they planning for us moving forward into the future, all the way until 2030 we're going to be really talking about. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend of yours who would be into this, and then also definitely subscribe if you haven't already. So let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, reptilians are real. Like, I just have to make that statement. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say, because you're obviously finding yourself with this video, and thank you for that super chat, Sharma. But yeah, they're real. They're definitely real. They're really real. And there have been many different accounts of people witnessing and seeing reptilians like celebrities shape-shifting. And a lot of that, actually all of it, has been really, really squashed by the media. Because, of course, who runs the media? I truly believe, from my own remote viewing and channeling and deep states of meditation, that the Illuminati or the shadow government is being run by these shape-shifting reptilian beings, these off-world beings. And that's like a whole backstory. And if you want to know more about how the reptilians came to be, why they're here, and why they feel like they need so much control over humanity, you want to check out all of my reptilian videos. And I have many of them on my website, elizabethapril.com. So if you want to know more, there's tons of videos there. I also want to make a statement that not all reptilians are bad. I will say that there's a lot of them on planet Earth. I would say the majority on planet Earth are pretty corrupt. They're really here for their own means. They're quite greedy and they're hungry for that power and that control. But I do have to mention that in every species across the entire universe, you're going to find both good and bad. Of course, some species like the Pleiadians are mostly good. Some species like the reptilians are mostly bad, but we can't just blanket, statement everyone into one category, just like we can't blanket statement humanity and say, well, there's a couple of rotten eggs here and they're all bad. It doesn't work that way in the universe. We've got that polarity, we've got that binary. And then I do want to mention that the vibration of the reptilians is in the fourth dimension frequency, and a lot of that frequency is fight or flight. And we do have something called a reptilian brain, or at least a part of our brain is the reptilian brain, and that controls our fight or flight mechanisms. And I believe that the reptilians have been kind of mixing their DNA with our DNA for a very long time, and so in a sense we kind of all have a bit of that reptilianness inside of us. And some of us have much, much higher amounts of reptilian DNA. I mean, take a look at the royal bloodline. Why do you think that they want to marry within the bloodline? Once again, I believe that it's because they have higher amounts of reptilian DNA and they want to keep that within the royal families. Because within the royal families, they have that power and control. At least in the past, they did. And now we're seeing more and more of these reptilian shapeshifters really infiltrate mass media, celebrities, and that goes into MK Ultra programming and all of that. Um, yes, and we're actually going to get into that a little bit in the power structure of the reptilians. And so I just want to mention that right now, what's really interesting is we went from, kings and queens back in the day as heads of state. And then we kind of moved into more of a religious structure. Actually, I think it was religious and then kings and queen monarchy, or both at the same time. I'm definitely not a historian. But, we've seen reptilians involved in basically heads of state, the kings and queens, and then we've seen reptilians involved in, priests and religions across the planet, especially a lot of the religious wars were started, I believe, by these reptilian shapeshifters and these, elites of society. And now, and then it moved into politicians, and then it moved into mass media, and then it moved into celebrities, right? Like, who are the people gonna listen to? That's their main question. How we want to control the people. We want to make sure that the people don't know that they're being controlled. So how do we control the people and allow them to utilize their free will to agree to be controlled? Who are the people going to listen to? So nowadays, like, it's such a freaking eye roll, but we've got things like TikTok, right? I mean, how much time do we all, and I am definitely a part of this, how much time do we all spend just scrolling endlessly on random bullshit, right? I mean, that's a form of control. What's really positive about what social media and the internet age has brought about is that there isn't just one celebrity. There isn't just one musician. Like, even when I was growing up, it was like the Spice Girls or Britney Spears. Like, there wasn't really like these were celebrity status people. But right now we've got a ton of influencers who are all basically, you know, uh, saturating the market. And the reptilians can't control all of the influencers. And yes, someone brought up AI in the chat, and I am going to talk a little bit about AI. And once again, these are going to be the agendas and the plans for the future, and AI is a part of that. So yeah, we've got pros and cons, but right now there's not just two television stations on the TV or 5 radio stations to listen to, or one newspaper that gets sent out. Right now, it's so decentralized that, they can't necessarily get to all of us through one means, which is good. That's a good thing. So let's talk about the power structure of reptilians. Once again, this is something that I have not totally broken down before. Okay, so you've got underground reptilians. Okay, we've got basically underground reptilians and above ground reptilians. That's kind of how I see it being split. So the underground reptilians are there are some that are within military bases, like even in the Antarctica military base, there's a ton of reptilians walking around, which is a little freaky because they can actually see remote viewers and not a good situation. Um, and then there's also a lot of reptilians who are underground who are actually just in caves. I don't even know how many are just in caves. They're not even a part of the underground cities, right? Or inner earth communities. They're just in their own I guess, living situation, if you could call it that. It's really like foul down there. Like, it's really disgusting. Okay, think about it this there are like alligators or crocodiles on planet Earth who sometimes can go like a whole year without eating, and they're kind of in a state of like almost like semi-hibernation, and they can really live through many different climates and environments. That's kind of how I believe the reptilians can really exist and live for quite some time underground in very terrible conditions. And it's always like pitch black down there. This is what I've seen when remote viewing, and I've been there many times. The other part of them being underground, and I'm not going to go into why they're underground and how they got there because I've talked about that in other videos before. But there is a tie here to sex trafficking. So there's also really big underground. They kind of look like almost, some of them are smaller than others, but they kind of look like giant airplane hangars underground. Like if you could imagine almost like a cement warehouse type of thing underground. It's pretty barren. There aren't even like rooms that are situated. Like it's once again terrible conditions, maybe a little bit better than just caves, but there's a lot of like sex trafficking that is happening underground in these conditions. And unfortunately, it's still happening today. So there's sex trafficking that's happening above ground, and then there's a lot of sex trafficking that's happening underground. And these are unfortunately children who are born underground. That's all they know, and they die underground. It's not good. It's not good. It's and we'll talk about the transition that's happening with that, but that's basically the reptilians that are underground. Some in military bases, some in caves, and some controlling the sex trafficking situation underground. For the reptilians that I've seen underground, they do not shapeshift. They do not cloak themselves. As a matter of fact, they don't actually have the technology to shapeshift or cloak themselves underground. They are just the way that they are. I've seen this in the sex trafficking rooms, and then I've also seen this in the caves, and I've also seen this in the military bases, that they are just full in their like 8 foot tall, some of them have tails, scaly type of reptilian, beings. Like they're aliens, they're interdimensionals, or not really. They're more earthbound, but anyway, besides the point. Okay, and then there are reptilians that are above ground, and the reptilians that are above ground are split into two categories. One category I call the shit disturbers. These are the reptilians, and so pretty much all the reptilians who are above ground are shapeshifters. They have that technology, whether that be a genetic or DNA like encoded technology or an actual technology. Like some of them actually wear a device. It's almost like a cloaking or like hologram device. Like it's kind of hard to describe. Like I don't even understand it. But they, especially like a lot of the politicians and stuff, because there are so many eyes on them, yes, they also have clones as well, especially when the holograms aren't working. But they also have like technology to back up kind of their situation. So yeah, and I kind of already jumped ahead. So we've got the shit disturbers, and then we've got the bloodline or the ones in power. And they're very, very different. The shit disturbers are kind of the low level reptilians who are able to like inhabit a human body because that human body has a higher than normal reptilian DNA. So maybe they've come through some sort of bloodline on their own, but not obviously of royal descent, just a reptilian bloodline. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, they will be addicted to drugs, not all the time. And sometimes they will be homeless. And sometimes they will be completely normal people, like just hanging out on a bus. And then they take out a knife and they start like stabbing people. So I call them the shit disturbers because their sole purpose is just disturbing the peace in these bodies, in these human bodies. And I've encountered quite a few of these reptilian shit disturbers before at a low level. Like, believe it or not, they are walking around among us. Not, I don't want to say like everywhere, but like, yeah, fairly common. You would be surprisingly common, basically. Now, I do want to say that with the shit disturbers, some of them are very aware that they are reptilian and they know that what their mission is or their purpose is. And a lot of the shit disturbers have no idea that the reason why they go crazy every once in a while is because they actually have this reptilian attachment, within them. So yeah, so I don't want to say that they're all super aware of it. However, the bloodline, the ones in power, okay? These are the politicians, these are the celebrities, these are the, I don't know, the musicians, the actresses, the actors, the news reporters. I mean, not all news reporters, not all politicians, not all celebrities are reptilians, okay? This is just not across. I thought it was, and it's not. It's not across the board. A lot of them are, especially the ones with influence. And those ones in particular are from I don't want to say a certain bloodline, but like they essentially have prestige. So, as a reptilian being on planet Earth, you are at the bottom of the barrel if you're hanging out in a cave underground. There's only a certain like number and a certain caliber of reptilian who's allowed above ground and who's allowed especially in that hierarchy position of being in power. Like there's a lot of rules that they have to follow when they're in that sort of position, and I will say that the majority of them do not follow the rules because they don't care. I mean, every reptilian, I mean, the low vibrational ones that I've met are all out for their own power and control and greed. They really don't care about the other reptilians. They don't care about the humans. They don't care about the rules. So anyway, so we've got underground ones, we've got above ground ones. And then I want to mention that there are like reptilian human hybrids. Like I said, we kind of all have reptilian genes within us, but there are some humans who have a higher amount of reptilian DNA. So maybe their father was one of these shit disturbing reptilians. And one thing that I know about reptilian hybrids, especially the shit disturbers, is they love spreading their seed. Okay, it sounds really gross, and it is gross, but like a lot of these reptilian shapeshifters, especially the men, and like I said, some of them aren't aware of it. They will have like 10 kids in 5 different countries. And like their main goal is just to like get it out there. Anyway, which means that there's a lot of reptilian hybrids out there. And there's like, how do I say this? There's like genetic traits, like, and I talk about this in different videos and also like a lecture that I did recently with the Conscious Life Expo. I talked about the different physical traits of a reptilian hybrid. And I also talk about the physical traits of not just a reptilian hybrid, but Pleiadian and angelic and Arcturian and all the other, the main ones in my book, You're Not Dying, You're Just Waking Up. So keep that in mind if you want to deep dive on that. A lot of these like high amount of reptilian hybrid humans, they are so unaware of it. You have no idea. I'm sure there's a bunch of you right here, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. I just have to say that. That totally doesn't mean that you're a bad person, okay? And then, oh yeah, and then I do want to mention that there are those individuals that choose to sell their soul for fame. I mean, it's in almost every freaking, popular song that's out there. Like, I sold my soul to the devil, like, whatever. Going all the way back into, early music. And music was always a way to control the masses, to subdue the masses. And then, of course, the musicians themselves are a part of that control. And so, what's interesting about this saying of like, I sold my soul, right, for fame or whatever, or I sold my soul to the devil, technically, you're not actually selling your soul, you're selling your body. So the weirdest part about these individuals who choose to basically, and it is, like you have to go through not only just like writing a contract of like, this is what I'm giving up, but you have to go through blood and sex rituals in order to give up your body to a reptilian. So like I said, there are some who have, the DNA, and then there are some who choose this. I will say that I've seen the rituals, like I've remote viewed, I've seen what they do, I've seen past lifetimes of these rituals, and a lot of the time, the person who's choosing riches and choosing fame, basically choosing to give up their own free will, a lot of them don't even know that they're giving that up to reptilians until the actual ritual or ceremony. Like I've seen even a past lifetime that I'm thinking of where this person got chosen or whatever. It's like a whole long story, but anyway, they walk into this room, like the ritual room, which was it was in this, I want to say a castle underground, all cement, like all stone. And there's a stone table and there was a sacrifice that needed to happen in order for them to be a part of it. And they didn't know that they were dealing with these like off-worldly beings, okay, until they literally took down their hoods. And it's like 4 8 foot tall, scaly, half crocodile looking, half human looking beings. And I think if these like, would be celebrities or, actresses or whatever, I think if they knew what they were getting into beforehand, they wouldn't do it. I mean, that's why I think they wait to the end to really expose themselves. Anyway, so it's wild what they do. So there are those who choose this, and I just want to say that when someone chooses to basically sell their soul, but really, once again, it's selling their body to a reptilian for riches and fame, and a lot of the time they do get the riches and fame, right? This is why we need to kind of question those individuals. Is they're actually sharing their body with that reptilian being. So it's like their consciousness or their soul is pushed to the back, like they take a back seat in their own body. So even though they have fame and riches and money and all of that, they got to go through also a lot of programming, MK Ultra type stuff in order to kick their consciousness to the back and to allow this other thing forward. And I mean, I don't know, like I just want to say it's not worth it. Okay, that's the reptilian structure. That took way too long. That was not the point of the video, but I hope that you learned something. Okay, so here's an update right now. Just right before this video, I tuned in, I took a look, like what's going on the planet, what's happening with these reptilians. And what was so cool to see is immediately, so when I'm in a deep state of meditation or trance and I ask a question, I will immediately go to where the answer is, if that makes sense. So my question is like, what's the current state of the reptilian agenda? And immediately I go to an underground cave, and I see this image. Like, how do I describe this? So imagine like a really dark cave, and then you've got dark figures. Like that's really all it looks like. And then in this instant, this dark, shadowy figure in this dark cave, like it's almost like a silhouette, like lights up, like turns into pure white light and zooms up. Like I don't know how else to say that, but it's like a spark. It's like they spark up. And so when I had to ask like what's going on here, like what exactly am I witnessing? The information that came through is that these reptilians, a lot of them who are in these underground bases, are transitioning into the light. And the reason why they're transitioning into the light are two things that came through. One is they're sick and tired of being down there and having no control and just kind of waiting around. And their populations are like, it's overcrowded down there. It's just not a nice place to be. And so a lot of them are just choosing to move on. And then the second reason why these reptilians underground are transitioning is because of the Schumann resonance, not just the Schumann resonance, but what's causing the Schumann resonance spikes, like the solar flares, like the cosmic radiation, increasing dramatically the electromagnetic frequency on planet Earth. And the lower vibrational beings and entities on planet Earth cannot handle these energy spikes. It's like forcing them to transition. I don't know why it gives me chills. It's kind of like the sun comes out and like all the flowers start to bloom, right? It's exactly like that. And so they're being forced. They're now being forced. Hallelujah. They're now being forced to transition. And what that's going to do is it's going to lower their numbers, and it's going to help us transition into a higher state of being. Because and I channeled this a couple years ago, but one big purpose of all of the reptilians being stuck underground in these caves, even though they're not doing anything or affecting humanity really at all, interacting with us at all, is they are holding a low vibration right under us. And so it's almost like if you could imagine like a balloon trying to float away, like we're trying to ascend, but we can't. It's like a pin holding that balloon down. And that's essentially what it is. It's like this weird control balance of frequencies. And so when they're transitioning, it's helping us to transition because it's eradicating some of that darkness. Okay, now the reptilians that are above ground, okay? Essentially, what I saw is that half of them really think they're winning, and for me, it just feels like such an ignorant thing to think, right? It's like keep going, we're winning, we're winning. They're not. They're not winning. They're not even close to winning. And when I say winning, I mean winning the battle of consciousness here on planet Earth, winning the light and dark battle. So half of them really think that they're winning. And then the other half are like scared shitless. And the ones that are scared, they know that they can't, it's not that they can't keep fighting, but they know that there's a time limit and that time is coming to a head. So the ones that are scared, they know that there's a time limit. They know that we're kind of encroaching. And there was another point that I wanted to make about them being scared. Oh yeah, some of them want to jump ship. Like some of them want to just kind of give up and like actually just leave the planet. It's like a sinking ship for them. And so they just want to leave. But there's incredible pressure for them to stay. So that's kind of the situation that's happening. So let's talk about what's next, what's ahead. Before I get into what's ahead, what's next, what's the big power move? There's going to be a big power move. We've seen them before. It's going to happen. Once again, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I do want to give a little podcast update. I am canceling my podcast. It's called Expand. So if you're new here and you're like, oh my God, she has a podcast, I have 123 episodes. 123. Okay, which is pretty badass that I'm ending at 123 episodes. Didn't even plan that, but it works out. But like, yeah, go ahead, start from the beginning, binge listen. There's no ads, there's like nothing. So yeah, have at it, have fun. But I am ending my podcast. I will be transitioning my podcast over to the membership. So I'm going to continue it, but it's going to be members only. And the reason why is because I'm getting rid of the meditations on the members. So I wanted to move the meditations and give them something else. So now I'm giving podcasts instead of meditations. Anyway, it's like a whole chain reaction. I just don't have the capacity to produce as much content as I'm producing. It's a lot. It's like 8 new videos for members, and then for YouTube. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. Okay. Yeah. So just podcast update. And then also we finally are launching the Galactic Federation bundles. If you want to know more about Earth updates, about hybrid humans, about activating your DNA, about what the hell is happening, about the light and dark battle, about pretty much anything under the sun and within the universe, please check out the Galactic Federation Summits. It happens every single month live, but then we're also finally just releasing the bundles. So we have a 2020 bundle, we have a 2021 bundle, we have a 2022 bundle. You can essentially buy all 12 months of the Galactic Federation Summits, and you get 2 of them for free when you do that. So it's definitely worth it, especially if you're new and you want to just binge listen to something really badass and see me channel aliens. Yeah, it's they're very activating. Just expect that you probably won't get much sleep after you listen to a couple. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't get sleep after I channel sometimes. Okay, so let's go back to the next big power move. So this is kind of what I wanted to look into, like where are we going? Where are the reptilians right now? Where is this big agenda right now? And they are planning some really big power moves. I will say that within the realm or the scope of the reptilians, it's a little bit chaotic now. They're really vying for power. Since Queen Elizabeth passed away, they're all fighting for that power position, and it's kind of a cluster. That's all I gotta say. So they want to make certain power moves to suppress and control the masses. That's always their agenda. It's not for more money because they made up money. So like it's not like, you know what I mean? It's like control and suppression. So in the next 2 years, so basically right now leading up to halfway through 2025, what we're going to see, and it's either one of these or like all of them. The first thing that came up is like more environmental catastrophes. Yes, we've got some actual environmental things happening like the pole shift. The poles on planet Earth are shifting. They want you to believe that it's the global warming. Not that humans aren't destroying the planet, we definitely are, but the bigger issue at hand is a pole shift. It's the pole shift. It's the magnetic poles shifting on planet Earth. That's happening. But above and beyond that, the powers that be have the ability to create weather events, multiple, all different across the board. I've seen them create earthquakes before. I've seen them create fires before. I've seen them create tornadoes before. I've seen them create flooding before. Really anything. So environmental stuff is definitely going to ramp up, both organically because of the pole shift, but also inorganically because of them. They want to create chaos. They want to depopulate. They're scared. They want to put us into fear, and they want to be able to control us, which means less numbers. We're going to see that ramping up in the next 2 years, but moving into 2030, and I'm going to talk about that. So 2 years, yes, but there is this whole thing until 2030. We're also going to see much more food scarcity came up. Food scarcity. Food scarcity. And that can come through a variety of different ways. Please learn how to grow your own food. You can do it from an apartment inside. You can, and there's many different things technology-wise that you can invest in that will help you grow your own organic garden inside. I've lived in a shoebox before, and I've grown food in a shoebox before, so I know I can do it. I know you can do it. Do it, please. There's also going to be more mandates against free will. Okay, and I don't know, it wasn't clear how these mandates are going to come through or what they're going to look like, but it was clear that yes, these mandates are going to happen. More mandates against free will. And then this is where AI came up. So this information came up, but I haven't been able to like decipher it or decode it. Basically, I'll just say it and then you can kind of interpret it or maybe do your own sort of tuning in on this. What came up was in the next 2 years, okay, AI making us lose our humanity. That's what came up. And I wasn't sure what that meant. AI making us lose our humanity. I don't know. I mean, there's so many things that I could speculate. I'm not going to speculate. But those are the words that came through. That AI is going to really force us to lose our humanity. And then there's also going to be threats of war. Threats of war. And this seemed really like global. Okay. All of this is going to be to distract. Okay. What are they distracting us from? They're distracting us from our own ability to consciously choose the reality that we're in. They're distracting us from our power of free will. They're telling us to look over here, and while we look over there, whether we love it or we hate it, we're feeding into it. So don't do that. Which brings me to, what can we do? What can we do? Okay. What can we do about this? Essentially, number one is be self-sufficient, you guys. Be self-sufficient. Whether that be your own business and making your own money and paying your own bills that way, or being off the grid and not even having bills to pay, or growing your own food at home. You don't have to necessarily be self-sufficient in every single way imaginable, but starting off thinking, how in my life am I relying too much on the outside world, and what can I do to be more self-reliant? Right? And start there. Okay, the second thing that came through is like focus on the good. Don't get caught up in the distraction. Don't get caught up in the matrix stuff. Don't get caught up in their agendas because that's exactly what they want. The more that you're even like angry or frustrated at what they're doing, the more you're feeding into that, the more focus and conscious energy, source energy you're putting into that. Therefore, you're creating it. Stop creating it, okay? I get that you're pissed. Me too, but like stop. So focus on the good, be more self-reliant or self-sufficient. When will it end? When will it end? This was my like next big question. I'm like, what the fuck? Like now what, right? Like, so great. But like, when is it going to get better, basically? Okay. The information, when I asked the question, when will it end? The information that came through is like, once we see A, a change in power, and B, more global solutions. Solutions for environmental issues, solutions for the financial issues, solutions politically, solutions globally, solutions with free energy technology, solutions with disease. When we start to see more solutions coming into our reality, it's a pretty good indication that they're no longer being suppressed. They're not new solutions. They've been out for freaking forever. They're no longer being suppressed, which means the powers that be don't have the power, right? So once again, when we see more solutions coming through, and then we also see a change in power, and what came through with the change in power is when we see like CEOs like dropping out of their company, we see politicians like standing down or like just changing hands maybe suddenly all over the world is and it is happening slowly, but it's got to ramp up a little bit, a little bit more. So that's not a timeline. So I was frustrated with that. I'm like, okay, great. So when we see more solutions and we see a change in power, like it's happening, that's cool. Like, where's the timeline? Like, what's the timeline here? And there was a timeline that came through. So like I said, the next 2 years until mid 2025, we're going to see this like acceleration or ramping up of all of these things that I mentioned. But unfortunately, it's going to go to 2030, and here's the reason why. So I received the download back in 2017 or 2018 that there's a timeline between 2020 and 2024, and essentially 2020 and 2020 between 2020 and 2024 is when the old Earth, or the 3D third dimensional Earth, collapses. I mean, come on. And then between 2024 and 2028, we're going to start to see the re-emergence or the emergence of the new Earth frequency. Once again, these solutions, people who are in power, who are integral and for the people. But what I'm really taking a look at, 2024 to 2028, this 4-year period, is really more of like a vie for power. Like it is the final last straw of who's going to win this battle, essentially. I mean, that leads us right into 2028, right into 2030. And 2030 is an important date for a variety of reasons. One main reason is there's kind of like a global agenda that is taking place that I have confirmed, essentially by the reptilians, or the ones that are in power, talking about how by 2030 they want to be in a place of full power, full control, full fear, full suppression, mark of the beast, AI, like all of that stuff they want by that time. But I also believe that by 2030, we can be in full power and full control, and we can be in a place where we're the ones who are really dictating the outcome of our own freaking future about time. So I think that, I mean, we're right about to step into 2024. It's come on, it's full on, like battle time. Let's go. And when I say battle, I don't mean pick a side. I mean choose your own reality and stop feeding the matrix. Stop feeding into their bullshit, because that's all we've been doing. Okay. So, final words here. As long as we don't feed into their narrative, their own chaos and greed will destroy them. That's it, you guys. It's so simple. As long as we don't feed into their narrative, their own chaos and greed will destroy them. It's a train wreck just waiting to happen. All we got to do is sit back and say, good luck, because we got this. And to be honest, in the infinite quantum universe, we're already there. We've already won. We already have the cure for all of the cancers. We already have the solution for free energy. We already have decentralized internet for everyone. We have access to all of it. It already exists. And the more that we focus on solutions for inequality and access to food and shelter and clean water and information for everyone all over the world, if we keep focusing that is the reality, then we can actually shift collectively into that timeline. And that's what we have to know. That's what we have to keep in mind, that that power is ours and no one can take that away from us. Speaking of power and conscious awareness, thank you for choosing to be here with me on this beautiful Monday or whatever day of the week it is for you. I'm super grateful and so appreciative to have you all here and to have open minds and people who question everything, because that's what you got to do in the world that we're presented with today, is question everything, open your mind, and move forward knowing that you are the only one who gets to choose your reality. And I'm very grateful that you chose this today. And that being said, I will see all of you in the fifth dimension frequency.